The bone-chilling night of the skinwalker, unveiling a supernatural experience. This is one of many things I experienced as a child. I'm from the Navajo Nation, and my culture is full with superstitions, particularly because I live in the country. If you encourage it, you will undoubtedly meet something at night. Many of you may have heard the legends of the skinwalker, who does not whistle at night and does not pronounce its name. Even typing that makes me uneasy, but I can handle it for this narrative. This dates back 6 or 7 years, to my junior year of high school, if I remember right. I would sometimes drive or take the bus to school, while my mother would use the second car for various purposes. My father had moved in with us at the time due to his health issues, blindness and diabetes, both of which are prevalent among indigenous. We were the only 3 of us living together. My great-grandparents built this home out of cement and handed it down to us. The following 3 nights after he moved in would be the most life-altering. I'd gone to bed early the first night since I had to catch the bus at 3 a.m. I awoke to the sound of someone sobbing outside the house, and it sounded just like the witch from Left 4 Dead. I was weary, and I didn't pay attention to it for long before falling asleep again. I awoke the following morning wondering whether what I'd heard was true. I went about my daily business as usual. When I got home from school, I discovered my father in his room, watching TV since he had lost his eyesight. The only thing he could see were shadows. Still, I questioned what I'd heard in the back of my mind. I sat in the living room till it grew dark, watching movies. I went back to bed and awoke to the same wailing sound. This time I was laying in bed, totally awake, and it sounded like it came from just outside my window. My window was closed at the time. I couldn't get up to take it off because I was paralyzed with terror. Something was urging me not to walk outside, not to gaze out the window. So I simply laid in bed, thinking about my parents, and wondered whether they heard the same noise I did. My father is generally always up at night since he can't do anything, so I'm not sure he heard it. My mother, on the other hand, sleeps like a bear in hibernation. The dogs remained calm as well, despite the fact that her windows were not covered. Normally, they'd be barking and rushing after something, but there was nothing except that wailing sound. I attempted to sleep again, but the noise wouldn't stop, and it went on for who knows how long. I had to get ready for school in the early morning, still wondering what had occurred. I got ready to walk to the bus stop, still refusing to drive for some strange reason. I had eventually finished school and returned home. My mother was at home with my auntie, and they were reportedly preparing to take the vehicle. However, when sitting on the passenger side, my auntie stepped on the floor mat and felt something lumpy. She pulled up her foot and grabbed the mat, only to find an animal bone with no traces on it. This struck me as weird for reasons other than the bone itself. The door, you see, was constantly locked, and no one else was using it. The only thing that sprang to mind was that wailing sound. Whatever was creating the noise had to have unlocked the vehicle in some way. But how and why is this so? I sat there contemplating, wondering what my mother thought it was. She didn't say anything, just brushing it aside as if nothing had occurred. While my auntie felt it was strange as well, I believe she had her own perspective, but I don't recall much about that aspect. Nothing occurred that night as the day progressed. Instead, I opted to take the vehicle this time. I'd been chatting with a buddy at school about borrowing the vehicle since she needed to travel to the hospital to see her mother. Knowing myself, I'd say yes because I felt sorry for her. I had this strange sensation that night when I caught up with her as she grabbed the vehicle keys from me. I wish I had paid attention. It's something I regret to this day since, only hours after letting them use the vehicle, I found out they were in a horrific automobile accident that was almost fatal. The other car had T-boned them, causing the driver's side to be crushed. They needed sutures, but they would be okay, thank God. It could have been a lot worse. That gut sensation I experienced that day was maybe the culmination of all those nights. Nobody, not even myself, would have seen this coming if they had taken that automobile. I contacted my mother and was chastised over the phone. Even when I returned home and told my father what had transpired, it was impossible to escape the shame of turning up those keys. My father chatted to me for hours that night, while my mother was still driving home from work. I inquired of my father if he had heard the sobbing outside the windows the night before. He knew for a fact that the situation was not my fault, since he was fairly conventional. In reality, he felt that object was the source of the problem, intending to harm anyone was going to utilize that car. The following morning, before the sun came up, we woke up early on a Saturday to pray to the east and west with a cup of water as we anointed ourselves, then drank it. To this day, I'm grateful for whatever that sensation was to not look outside, and I'm grateful to my father for assisting me in getting through it.